So today, we get to talk about my favorite topic, which is letting go. Don't you guys love to let go of things? Yeah. Some of you do, actually. Some of you do. For some of you, this is an ongoing issue. But if we're going to talk about letting go, we've got to start with what kind of things happen to us as we age. And I'm just going to let you guys fill in the blank. The good, the bad, and the ugly. What happens to us as we age?
Memory.
Our memory. What happens to our memory?
It gets worse.
For many of us, it gets worse. For some, it gets interestingly twisted or different. You can remember some things really well and other things slip away. It's kind of interesting. What else besides memory?
Replacements.
Replacements? Like knees and hips and shoulders. That's right. So our bodies sometimes give out on us in certain ways, and medicine has a way of sometimes helping us with that. What else?
We become wiser but less relevant.
We become less relevant and also wise. And that is an interesting combo, isn't it? It is a really interesting combo that all of us need to deal with. And we deal with it one way in our 50s and 60s. We deal with it another way, I think, as we get a little older. But it's such a great way of putting it. What else?
Our skin thins in more ways than one.
Oh, thank you, Isaac. Thank you, Isaac. My friend Janice, was it my friend Janice who just showed me a little baby came to visit her yesterday and grabbed her skin? And she's got the Al looks down at his arm yesterday and said, "What is that?" But then you said in more than one ways. And it may be we get more in touch with our feelings. Some of us do as we get older, depending on who we are. Head people in particular get more in touch with their feelings.
Maybe some things upset us more now than it did 20 years ago.
And some things might upset us more now than they did 20 years ago. What else?
I was just going to add, when you brought up being relevant, I feel like when I was younger, maybe I looked to other people to help make me relevant. But now I'm working on making my own self relevant for me.
To yourself, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Letting go, speaking of letting go of external validation. Yeah,
Yes.
for sure. What else? What else happens as we age, David?
I think some of this is actually positive.
It is. It's not all negative, no.
We talk about quite all this, but the mental faculties that can actually enhance as we mature. Really beautiful to watch. Creativity, the ability to use right brain function.
Well, what some people smarter than I am say is that as we age, those parts of our brain and parts of our personality that perhaps we didn't get to highlight when we were being more productive, all of a sudden we get to develop, or they naturally start to develop. So yes, it's not all negative.
And the other thing is, we don't need to tack this strictly to age. Okay? There are younger people whose life experience brings them
Exactly.
and particularly serious illness or the sort of things that redefine our personality can bring a younger person to a degree of spiritual maturity that many of us have to live many years to get. But don't overlook that they're in our midst.
They are in our midst. And I'm going to tell a story today that many of you don't know about my life, where I got set on this path, I think probably a couple of decades earlier than maybe. I'm not saying it was great, but it's true. So I agree with you about that. Yeah.
I think I've become more compassionate as I meet more people that need my compassion.
Yes.
And I relate to them.
So what makes us maybe more compassionate? What makes us maybe more wise? What makes us thin-skinned? I would say that you can't get to our age without experiencing loss. Now, I'm not just talking about loss in a negative way. I kind of like David. I see loss as human, a human thing. I don't see it as tragedy. I don't see it as something to be avoided. But you get into your 6th, 7th, 8th decade, and guess what? There's been a lot of it. Because we want to talk about letting go, I'm going to start today with loss. What if aging is actually designed? We've talked every week about, this is God's design. This isn't like some kind of breakdown of creation to age. What if part of the aging process is really designed that the losses that we experience, that some of you have already mentioned, that they actually have tucked within them a gift. A gift. If you're in the middle of grieving a great loss, this sounds ridiculous. And I know that, okay? But we're talking spiritual transformation and spiritual growth. And our losses can have gifts. Our loss of relevance, for instance, our loss of mobility, our loss of even a loss of someone or something very dear to us can have a gift hidden inside. And what if our spiritual task as these things happen is to learn to let go? Loss and letting go aren't necessarily the same thing, but loss almost always kind of brings about a need to let go. I love the way y'all talked about it, because sometimes you have no choice. When you lose a loved one, guess what? You have no choice. You must let go. When you retire, there is a loss there, and you better let go, or you and your family are going to be miserable, right? If you're hanging on to who you used to be. So I think that part of the aging process and the losses we experience have to do with the gift that might be in those losses that will come from letting go. And then what if our responsibility as elders, those of us in our 70s, 80s, whatever, involves teaching others that it's okay to let go, that it sometimes is what we're being called to do, and that there are spiritual gifts kind of embedded in these things. Because when a young person has a tragic loss in their lives, who can they turn to? Who might know a little bit about loss? It most likely is going to be, I hope, it's going to be one of us. That's just where the relevance comes in. It kind of depends.
It doesn't go away completely.
No, that doesn't go away completely. One of my favorite things is the 7:30 phone calls from my daughter. It takes my daughter 20 minutes to get from daycare to the hospital. Okay, it's a 20-minute drive. I know the drive really well because she'll call me when she gets in the car from daycare, and we talk until I can hear the car when it clicks, and when she gets into the burp, 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 the door, that's when I know the conversation's over, right? Because once she badges in, we're done. But it's her free thinking, just whatever's floating through her mind. And a lot of it, I don't talk a lot, I listen, but a lot of it is processing her own, loss. Or her own pain, or her own whatever she's dealing with at that time. So I instead of doing the Bible study or whatever, I'm just going to tell you guys a story. I'm going to tell you a story of a period of time in my life, and it was not a short period of time, about 7 years, when from my limited perspective as a 50-year-old, I lost everything that mattered to me. In a very short period of time. My husband in 2006 left the only job that he'd ever had, or the only thing I knew him to be, which was a pastor. He left, and we started a family business. I went to go be an associate pastor, which frankly was honestly beneath my skill level, but it was a job that I could get so my family would have a home and a place. And I took a job at this church, Canyon Creek Presbyterian Church in Richardson, Texas. I was the preacher. That's me. That's me. That's 50-year-old Stacy who had her act together and knew everything. And I stayed there for about 10 years. But in that 10-year period, that church lost its longtime senior pastor because he had a moral lapse with one of my colleagues on staff. That made it even better. So in 1 week, we lost the senior pastor and a major colleague who was a senior staff person, and I had to hold that church together until they got an interim. And then the interim, who is a very wise, very relevant 75-year-old who didn't do a lot but kind of hold the church together, I had to do the work and keep the place together. At the same time, we lost our family business, and we lost our home, our little home. And by 2012, Al wasn't even living in Dallas anymore. Now, y'all remember where he was in 2012. Some of you know where he was. He was here in Austin. We sold the home. We were technically homeless for a while. He got an apartment here. I got an apartment in Dallas. Our children had no home to come home to. Thankfully, they were busy getting married and doing their own thing. So I became empty nester, homeless. The one home that I was counting on, this church, became a nightmare. My husband was gone. It was really a profound experience of loss for someone. Everyone in their 50s goes through something. But I'm like, really, God? There couldn't be anything? You couldn't have left anything? I mean, we had our health. I guess that's what you say, right? We had our health. But financially, we were completely ruined. Vocationally, we were ruined. My feeling about the church was certainly not warm and fuzzy, right? And my kids, they were scattered to the wind. I mean, one time when I tried to have Thanksgiving, so we could all be together, I had to rent a house in Westlake. I had to do an Airbnb house just so we would have a place. Now, I'm not telling you guys this to feel sorry for me, but I'm telling you this to say when I came here in 2015 and left that church and left this persona and tried to start rebuilding, I was in a very different place spiritually. Because for the first time in my life, even though at this point I'm maybe 55, I'm 55 by now, I'm kind of realizing, none of this stuff is permanent. None of this stuff, the happy little home and all the kids around and having a permanent place to live and having a warm, wonderful little church to be a part of and to give your life. None of it is permanent. So when I got the phone call to come and work here, it was the fall of 2015. I was folding towels at Lifetime Fitness. That was my full-time job. I was a towel folder at Lifetime Fitness. Yeah. That was my full-time job. Al was working at the seminary. We on Sunday morning, we'd wake up and go. We weren't allowed to come here because Al was the interim, and you don't go back. And we wake up on Sunday morning. For the first time in our lives, there was no church to go to. It was weird. It was different. But what happened in that time is I had to, guess what? I had to really start praying, centering prayer, sitting for an hour in silence prayer. Not in dire, oh God, what's going to happen to me? But simply because I had no other place to go. I had no other place to go. And those losses, as profound as they were kind of necessary, frankly, because of the kind of person I am. Those losses threw me into a place where I could actually start to ask and to hear from God, is there something else besides just pouring your life into your children and your home, besides just pouring your life into a church? Is this marriage? I mean, think about it. We've been apart for like 5 years. Is this marriage supposed to keep going? And if it does, what's it going to be like? You know, because he doesn't seem to know what he wants to do with his life, and I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. How's this going to work? So with fear and trepidation, I moved here in 2015, took the job as a towel folder, sat in a 900 square foot apartment, which we could barely afford on his salary, and just waited. Just waited on God to do something. And it took a long time. It took a long time. I don't look back at this period, though, as like some deep, dark pit of sadness. I look back at these losses as almost necessary, things that had to be cut out of my life before God could really speak to me again, which is interesting. It's just who I am. Every journey is different. So when I got a phone call in the fall of 15 from a man named Mark Ramsey saying I could use some help at Westside Hills Presbyterian Church, I just died laughing. Thought of all the churches I would go to, this is not the one, right? But I needed a job. And I thought, well, as long as I don't take it too seriously, as long as I don't get really involved, as long as I don't fall in love with anyone or anything, sure, they can pay me money and I can work for them. Why not? And I gave up the folding towels, but I also gave up the membership. See, it was a free membership. I couldn't go there anymore. I had to go to Gold's Gym, of all places. And I just tell you the story because, again, it's not about age. It's about the gift that can come from losses. I think without those losses, I never would have come to work here. Without coming to work here, I never would have found a new way to do this that's not so wrapped up in ego and in, impressing and in, being important and all that kind of stuff. Because let me tell you, I've been here 10 years and I've never really been important in that way, and it's been good for me. It's been really good for me. And my next step is to do this without a church where I'm working. So wish me luck. Let's see if I can continue this. Not that I'm not going to be in church, but not be responsible for a church is going to be my next step. I can go back and fold, and then they give me a membership again. Not a bad idea. It's just a story to kind of let us start thinking about the losses that we encounter, because some are very profound, that they still can have within them some incredible gifts. But you don't receive the gift unless you know how to let go. And I think that Phil has some things he wants to show us in Scripture about that.
Thanks, Stacy. By the way, Stephanie and I were members of Canyon Creek Presbyterian Church just a little bit before you, like 15, 20 years. So I know the church. It's interesting because letting go and surrendering really is one of the key disciplines, if you will, for spiritual growth. And it just always kind of surprises me why it has to be so hard. Why is it so hard? It just seems like it really is. It should be rather simple, right? I mean, we have. After all, like the Westminster Catechism sums everything up in, like not even a full, complete sentence. The aim of life is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever, right? I guess it is a complete sentence, but in one sentence, that's all there is. And so, what's so hard about that? And then you look at the Beatitudes, and that's really they don't talk specifically about letting go or surrendering, but if you're poor in spirit or meek or or hunger for righteousness or merciful, that you're letting go of your own stuff, right? And listening to others and feeling for others. So that makes sense. And then you have, it goes back to the 10 Commandments. The very first commandment that God said is is to love God, to love me, show love, love God and show love to 1,000 generations. So that's pretty straightforward. And then in Deuteronomy, it's said again how easy it is. All you have to do is choose life, love God, listen to His voice, and follow Him. What's so hard about that? It's pretty straightforward. It's no mystery. But the problem is, it is hard, and it's. But why is it hard? And Thomas Keating, who actually was one of the 3 founders or creators of centering prayer that Stacy talked about some years ago, he has several treatises out, and one of them is, often he talks about letting go, and he says that the problem is that the human condition is we have these programs for happiness that we follow in the first half of life, particularly. And the second half of life, fortunately, they're not quite as strong. And that's one difference between younger and growing in your faith and being older in your faith, because now we hopefully have less of these hang-ups about the programs for happiness. And there's nothing wrong with any of the programs for happiness. I mean, he talks about survival, security, power, control, esteem, approval, and pleasure. And none of those things really in and of themselves are bad things. It's when you're hung up on them, or that's all you can do, and they govern your whole life. You just have to find pleasure. You have to keep on finding security or getting a higher paid job so you have more money or what have you. And that's where the problem comes in, because when we do that, if we're after career advancement or become a higher office or whatever it is, we tend to focus all our efforts and thoughts on that, and lose sight and actually block out God's love. And of course, we've been doing that for thousands of years. I mean, the 10 Commandments and Deuteronomy, that was Old Testament stuff, and we obviously, people didn't follow the general precepts because Jesus had to come, right, and help us get back on track or find the track, and it's hard. So Keating came up with a prayer he calls the welcoming prayer, which is an effort to try and get us to move beyond our programs for happiness. And so he talks about, the prayer here is, welcome, welcome. I welcome everything that comes to me today because I know it's for my healing. I welcome all thoughts, feelings, emotions, persons, situations, and conditions. Let go of my desire for power and control. Let go of my desire for affection, esteem, approval, and pleasure. Let go of my desire for security and survival, and so that I can be open to the love and presence of God. And so he divides things up pretty much into those things: the desire for survival, security, pleasure, control, power control, pleasure, esteem. And so I think those are pretty accurate summations of where our problems are. And it's not bad to look for security. Everybody needs security. In fact, truthfully, you really can't, unless you have some security like we do in the Western world, you don't have an opportunity to even move through the rest of the stuff, because all you're doing is looking for food and survival. So we're in a particularly good place because we live here in a country where we have everything and all the opportunities, and we have food, we have relative security, as much security as you can have. And so, and now those things hopefully don't drive us quite so much. We don't have those exaggerated demands for survival or security. One of the things that's going on, like with me and Stephanie right now, we're we're very happy where we're living. It's very convenient to what we want to do and everything. But we know we're not going to be able to stay there forever, right? And so we're trying to decide what do we do, and do we think about going into one of those retirement communities or something like Corinthi or something like that? Well, all right, then you start thinking about, well, do I have the money, or if I put all my money, am I going to run out of money? I mean, and it's like, oh, stuff, and you go, oh, I don't know, and but it's nice because you can stay there forever, I guess, as you move down, till they move you out, but yeah. So, and then affection, esteem, approval, and it's. I spent the first half of my life certainly searching for all those things. I mean, not consciously, but I was always wanting to advance my career. I was wanting to, have a better ski trip, or whatever. I wanted people to. I didn't really need the esteem, but when I don't have the esteem, when I'm irrelevant, then I'm kind of thinking, oh, I'm kind of, maybe I do need a little something, but it's. It's hard to let go of that stuff, and Richard Foster actually sums it up pretty nice. He had a seminal book, Money, Sex, and Power. I don't know if you all have read that, but Richard Foster is one of the what do you call the group? Renovar group, and he has that book, Money, Sex, and Power, and that. The title kind of summarizes what he says drives us, right? And I think that's pretty clear if you just look at the newspaper. And the last one is security and survival. And we have a lot of security here, but it's still we sometimes have a internal demand for more security. It's funny, but one experience, you're talking about being an assistant or an interim pastor, and maybe this is the way it is with interim pastors or something, but the one experience I had that really just kind of blew me away about someone who was totally unconcerned about security because he gave it all over to God was the interim pastor that we had here between Gary Dennis and Doug Fletcher, Jack Lancaster. Probably all remember Jack. He was this strong man of faith. I mean, it was just like he was a rock, and he was really good for the church. Actually, he helped do a lot of things, get us out of debt and everything. But so one day we called Doug Fletcher to be the pastor, and so I had coffee like a week later with Jack, and I said, "Well, Jack, Doug's going to be here in actually a couple months or something. So, what do you think you're going to do? What are your plans?" And he said, "Well, Helen, his wife." He said, "Helen and I are going back to Montreat, which is sort of a Presbyterian pastor retirement area, and wait for God to call me somewhere else, tell me what to do." I said, "Well, that's cool, Jack, but what are your plans?" And he said, he goes, "Well, Helen and I are going to go back to Montreat, wait for God to call me." I said, "You really mean that? From the bottom of your heart, that's what you're doing?" Yeah, and I just, it was beyond me, because I was big on discernment. I've been doing discernment all my life, but I always I was open to what God's will was, but I always wanted a little bit of input. I mean, after all, I know the situation a whole lot better, right? I'm in it. I've studied it. I have great ideas. Just consider them, but not to be. Anyway, one fellow that's going to talk to us now is Nick, and I tell you, he showed again how he isn't subject to being relevant anymore, because I said, "Well, where's your wife, Cheryl? Didn't she want to come listen to you?" And she goes, "No, she's babysitting, a better gig."
Thanks, Phil. Good morning, everybody. Before I get started, I have to say Phil and Stephanie have done an incredible job. I mean, Phil and Stacy, you too, Stephanie, have done an incredible job in putting together this fascinating topic for us. And I think it's going great. So can we do this? Real. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Okay, Phil asked me to share my experience in volunteering and also playing music during my retirement, right? And I'm happy to do that. But I will say that it's probably not unique to me, this experience. Anybody who's volunteered here, and we'd love to hear about it when we get to the discussion period, but anybody who's volunteered here has learned some fascinating lessons, okay? And I'm going to talk about that. So, living the Beatitudes in your daily life. So think about this theme. Volunteering is interwoven with the opportunity to practice and live the Beatitudes. There's not many things like that, except maybe being a mother, right? You know, that really give us this pure opportunity. Okay, so I retired actually 10 years ago today, or not today, but this month. How about a round of applause for that? That was great. And so it's the job is Act 3, the final act before the curtain comes down. And what are we going to do with that time? So we all have to take inventory and think about what's important to us. I knew I had a passion for playing music. And when you first retire, you're going to travel. And we did, all over the world. And when we first retired, we had our first grandchild. So I was able to be there. We had this little guy twice a week. My wife, Cheryl, just opened her heart, felt a new level of love, right? So that was amazing. But as Phil mentioned in the first, you can't really, you enjoy those grandkids in the present moment, but they're going to grow up and start their own lives. And then there's a loss there. My wife is feeling it right here as the youngest, or the oldest is 10 now, right? So that's a joy we get, it's a gift, but that's not a purpose necessarily. It's not a long-term overriding purpose. I also wanted to perform acts of service. I knew I wanted to volunteer. So what I did was I combined my love for the music with the volunteering, which I'll tell you about. So after 2 years of trial and error there, this started year 2 of my retirement, I ended up doing a long-term commitment with Hospice Austin, which has been very transformative to my life, okay? And you'll see, now I'm playing music all over town, okay? So you may see me at a facility near you, okay? So
Hopefully not.
Yeah. You were just talking about that, yeah. Okay, so when I first started volunteering, I sat down with an expert. I wanted her on my team. Her name was Cindy Abel. Cindy was in our contemplative class. And she also was the president of I Live Here, I Give Here, Day of Giving. So she knew all the volunteer organizations, nonprofits across Central Texas. And after consulting with Cindy, I've been working with 3 different nonprofits, wonderful organizations. And I was amazed to find out that the people who worked in those nonprofits were just as bright, maybe brighter in many cases, than those I had encountered in private sector. Gifted people doing something that's a passion for them, right? So I would consult with the executive directors and the board members how to make their nonprofit more stable, ability to grow, generate additional revenue streams besides donations. And that was great work. And again, I met some wonderful people doing beautiful things. But I felt like I wanted to have more of a direct one-to-one connect with the recipient of the charity, so to speak. I went back to Cindy. She told me about Hospice Austin. and she said, you know, hey, listen, it's one of the most well-funded organizations. It's well led, and so they just do incredible work. Well, I had an affinity for hospice anyway, because when my mother passed, 2014, hospice of Wichita, Kansas, where she lived, came in, and they helped us and helped her have a beautiful, pain-free, anxiety-free passing. And it was such a beautiful gift to give to us. They counseled us on what to say, what to get off your heart, what to communicate to your mother. It's okay to go, Mom. I love you. Thanks for your love. Forgive me, right? I forgive you. All those things that are so important. A weight is lifted. So I was very much inclined to do that. So I took the 3-week training class to become a hospice volunteer. And the first thing you do is you visit with patients. And they would give me the older guys. All my guys were over 90. There was one guy who was 88. He was pretty young, okay? But some of these people don't have family or friends close by to visit with them. So they want somebody. They volunteer, and they ask for a volunteer to be assigned to them. And that was great. Did that for several years, and you learn so much, okay? And you start to become intimate with the process of dying too, which is almost taboo for a large sector of the population. And it becomes less threatening. It seems more natural. These guys were pretty happy just being alive that day and talking to me. I also started bringing music into it because I had, when I retired, I said, okay, I'm going to do that too. And my wife bought me piano lessons at age 60 for Christmas. Then she bought me a couple years later a baby grand piano. And then she regretted buying me the baby grand piano because they're very loud in the living room, okay? And music in itself is almost like becoming a child, learning at a later age, okay? Because you have to become humble. It sounds terrible, but you have this passion and you're gonna get there, and you just, keep going. And and the difference as an older person learning an instrument is you love to practice too. A little kid is like, I want to go play baseball. I don't want to play this stupid piano. With an older person, it's like, I enjoy the beauty of it all. The abstract left brain side with the numbers and so on, and the beautiful creative side on the right brain. It just fascinated me. So I switched to guitar, started playing music when my patients would like it, and 90% of the time they did. And music can go places words can't. So it was a good combination. I could play a song that meant something to them. One guy asked for the Rose of San Antone. You guys have heard that song, I imagine. I didn't know it, but I came back, learned it, and came back and played it. And tears were coming down his eyes because that was his daddy's favorite song. So you can do that with music. You can take people back. And I found it fascinating, okay? And then I also wanted to, I firmly believe that we all go to a far better place, okay? The loved ones left behind are the ones who suffer. And so I wanted to get involved in grief support. Another 3 or 4 week class. And then I began co-facilitating weekly support groups. We have them on Zoom, and there's 12 to 16 people that come in. And I have a partner. We always marvel at the fact that we get more out of these things than they do in many ways, okay? But it's a safe place for people to come, be honest with kindred spirits who are going through the same thing. So we hold space, we listen, we educate about the grieving process, which helps people understand they're normal, that they are where they are. It's a terrible thing to have to go through in some ways, but you can also grow through it. And like Stacy said. So nobody wants to hear that when they've just lost their mom or their husband or their child. But down the road, that's true. And that's God's beauty of this whole process. Okay? So then I began bringing music, started last year playing at Christopher House. Does anybody know what Christopher House is? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, so if you're on hospice, you're on palliative care. You're no longer going to be shuffled into a hospital, put some tubes in, we got to bring you back. Those days are gone, right? But patients who are on hospice, if they have acute care, they don't go to a hospital, they go to Christopher House, and there's doctors and nurses, and I have to tell you, it's a small facility. It's got this special energy because people are coming in there, and most of the time this is their last stop. They won't be going home. 16 beds. The staff are to me like angels, the nurses and the nurses, practitioners, social workers, and doctors. So I'll go in every week. I'll play for the staff a little bit, and then the nurses will tell me which rooms, who do I need to go to, who would like some music. So I'll go in and play music with the patient, their family, and so on. And it's a sacred space. I've been in rooms playing music where the daughter will tell me her mother's now communicating with all her loved ones who passed, right? I see young kids there, young mothers with little kids. It's very difficult sometimes, but it's very profound, and I do love it. I feel lucky to have this opportunity to be in this unique space, okay? And then I feel I could give you some tips on homes because hospice also has relationships with care communities. And some of the ones that I play music at are listed here: Westminster Grand Living over by the Grove, Mirabella in the Domain, and then Brookdale. There's a couple of those, right? So I play for memory care patients, assisted living patients. There I do that. I think I do 3 shows a week these days. And I love that. Memory care, I'll play the piano at lunch, right? No vocals. The assisted living people really like to get down though, okay? They like rock and roll, and we'll do some Elvis, and we'll do some Beatles, and we'll do Dean Martin, we'll do the Everly Brothers, and so on. Now, there's nothing more heartwarming for me than to see a group of people that start to sing along, tap their feet, smile, enjoy the music. It breaks up the day. And the reason why Hospice Austin is asking me to do this is because these are partners. They have residents who are already patients of hospice living there. And there are 35 for-profit hospice organizations in Central Texas. There's only one nonprofit, and that's Hospice Austin. So these relationships are important for them to keep their patient census up and so on. So I'm happy to do that. And the facilities love it. I mean, the activities directors are looking for music, but particularly live music, because of the effect that it can have on the patients or the residents that day, okay? So that's where that's led to. To me, sometimes it's profound how I started out to be a volunteer, and now I'm in these situations where, frankly, the joy I feel while I'm singing and performing and interacting with a large group of people, or the profoundness I feel at Christopher House, is more impactful than anything I experienced during my career, okay? So it's been great. Where do the Beatitudes come in? I won't read all these things, but you get it, you know. The sick, those who mourn, the poor in spirit, which means humility. Well, that's what the volunteer can be. You go to a situation with an open heart, knowing you can't fix a thing. You can't change that outcome, but you can sit with that person in love, in empathy, in silence. Okay, so to me, it's like a double whammy, right? You get to do something that's fun. I incorporated something that I liked in my volunteer work, but I have an opportunity to do these things, and it just is natural, just comes. Okay? Now, the good news is, as we all know, giving is kind of more gratifying than just receiving. So you get more than, when you volunteer, I've gotten more back than I've ever offered up. It seems what I've offered has always been somewhat simple and not a big deal. But people appreciate it. So I have a deeper sense of purpose. I probably have a deeper sense of purpose now than when I was executive poobah back in the day, okay? Emotional nourishment. You know, you can feel the human connection. That's what we all strive for. That's what makes life feel vital and real, okay? That's there. It's an opportunity to use your special talents. Mine is singing and playing. You know, and the fact that I love people, okay, I guess that's a talent too. But I see other people, for example, at Christopher House, where they do massage because they love to do that. They do floral arrangement because they love to do that. They knit shawls, prayer shawls, because they love to do that. Whatever it might be. Okay, so if you're going to consider doing this, you know, make sure you know what your special gifts are. I think there's personal growth. I think there's an opportunity to be empathetic, practice all these things. What's probably one of the most important things, it's a connection to something bigger than ourselves, certainly bigger than me. I'm kind of in the deep ocean there sometimes with the emotions around dying. But it's not about me, it's about that larger purpose. And then there can be growth and healing personally, right? You guys get that? I think that's it. Let me see. Yep, that's it. There you are. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Well, we have 10 minutes for questions or comments. I'd really like to hear anybody have a particular pursuit of happiness that you want to share or that you dealt with, or no? No? Janice.
Well, a lot of times when I look back at my life, I've had very big moments of suffering as the world, especially pre-50, describes it. And, you know, that's losing my first husband, who was wonderful, and then had a 3-year affair with my best friend who lived 2 houses down from me. And I didn't find out about it till I did. And then I stayed for 5 years thinking he would grow up, and he never did. And so finally, I left him. And I adored that man. And we'd done some beautiful things together. So that was a huge piece of suffering. Also, he'd lost all our money. Oh, excuse me. He lost all our money. And so I had to go back to work. And I still had 3 little children at home that I was raising. And he took off and traveled with another company. Okay? And then I lost my son, Alan, to cancer at age 17. And on the last day of his life, he said, "Mom, I want you to create a center for attitudinal healing in Austin. Would you do that for me?" How do you say no? I said yes, and I had no idea what I was doing, how I would do it, etc., etc. And lo and behold, God took over, and so many beautiful things came out of that, and literally thousands of people were helped through the grief and loss process that the Center for Attitudinal Healing provided for people. And then I was asked by a man who I adored, who'd helped me fund some other work I'd done in the past, a man named Dick Orton, who created the whole, I can't say what it was. Now here's my memory. You know, the preschool program nationally, whatever that is. He had created that. He'd been loaned by LBJ. Pardon? Head Start? Head Start, yes. He was the creator of Head Start. He'd been loaned by LBJ to Texas. And I went to him for funding way back when I was doing another project. And And he taught me how to do strategic planning. And then years later, now the Center for Attitudinal Healing is going along great. And Dick Orton called me. I hadn't heard from him in years. And he said, Janice, I want to come volunteer at your center. I said, what do you want to do? He said, I want to work in your yard. This is a man who'd done gargantuan things with his life. I said, you going to work in our yard? He said, yes, I've had a heart attack. And I want to be in the healing energy of your center. And he came and he did that. And then the same man said to me, now Janice, you've been doing this center for 8 years, and you really need to stop being the chairman of the board. What? This has saved my life. And he said, no, you need to stop being the chairman of the board because you're so committed. As long as you're here, no one else will fill that spot. And so I prayed and prayed about that because it was heartbreaking for me to get that recommendation, especially from him. And so I went back to him and I said, I'll step down as chairman of the board. We're going to elect you as a board member this fall. And then when it's time for me to step down, I'm going to nominate you as chairman. And he agreed. And then he took over and ran the center for me. At the same time, I got the call to serve on the board of the trustees for Fetzer Institute, whose purpose was to demonstrate the relationship of mind, body, and spirit in health and wellness. And lo and behold, I started going to Kalamazoo, Michigan, where that was, weekly, for a long time. Now, was I in charge of any of that? No, I was not. It just showed up, and it continues to show up. I'm licensed as a marriage and family therapist. That's the only certificate I have. It's a great license, don't misunderstand me. But it did not prepare me for life with its ups and downs and losses. And then I met this wonderful man along the way, and now we've been married 45 years. And I want to tell you what, I don't know what I would do without him. And I don't know that I would ever have had him had I not gone through all the suffering I went through, and he showed up as my partner in life. So we got to trust God, no matter what, whether it's death, loss of finances, on and on and on. I'm just saying, that's why I teach the contemplative prayer class now, because I believe in prayer. I believe in surrender to the Holy Spirit. And I just want to say thank you for doing this class, because that's what we have all got to eventually get to, and that is being okay with our aging process and being thankful to God for all the journeys, hard and easy and beautiful and sad, we get to go through.
I do have a comment. Sure. You know, I feel that part of aging is being able to share our vulnerability. Mm-hmm. And I was really struck by Pastor Stacy, because it takes courage. And then Janice, what you just shared. Wow, we need more of that sharing. Like, it's okay to not be okay, or you sharing what you went through. I look at you at church and I'm like, your nails always look perfect. I know it's superficial thing.
First thing I noticed too.
And you always look so perfectly appointed, but you just shared. Well, I want to say thank you for that value. And what Pastor Stacy shared. Wow, you don't know what other people have gone through. And I feel that, thank you for letting me learn, because I'm not the best at letting myself be vulnerable, but when others give you permission, I'm a good responder. Does that make sense? So I'm learning more of that as I age as well.
Good.
So thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah. Got time for another comment or two?
You know,
Yes,
these
Tom.
periods of renewalship just remind us all, I think, of God's relentless pursuit of us. And I think at some point in time we start realizing who we are. that God knew when we were in the womb who we are, but I think it takes time, and sometimes it takes it probably does take ups and downs for all of us to sort of understand this is a part of renewal that I'm going through, this amazing pursuit of me, of us, of individuals, and then you start revealing, well, I really better understand who I am, who I'm called to be. Whether you were a leader before and now you're a musician, or whether you were a great mom in some tragedy and now you become a counselor. I mean, it's this God's relentless pursuit of us. And I think it's a renewal period. I don't think it has an age relationship. It's more of an awareness of God's presence in your life.
I think I agree with what you said. I think the other thing that we have an opportunity to do in this stage of life is to become our best self. You hear about that a lot, and I've seen it with friends and so on. But if you do let go, if you do look at life more from a beatitude standpoint, helping others, you can become your best self. You're not that egocentric person you were.
Letting go, that word is hard for me, but understanding it's a new, like the kids that skip rope and you jump in and start skipping with them. I mean, I can learn AI as well as my kids can. I mean, it's just a tool. So when you love it, learn to be a musician. I think it's just really God's revealing something He knew about you that you're now just becoming understanding of who you are. But you have to love that and accept it.
Right.
I think you're right. I mean, we become our best self.
Can be.
Can be. Okay. Thank you all. Thanks, Tom. And go in peace.